All right, we made it to episode 28 of the Homestead Shop Talk podcast. I feel like I'm getting sick, guys. So
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
bear with me. We okay, let me think about this. The first podcast of the year, okay, with Al from Lumnah Acres and Ben from Hollar Homestead in episode 28. And today we're going to be talking about, I guess, what we think that this year is going to look like for us. I guess maybe as far as homesteading, as far as maybe what we're planning and what we think that's what'll look like. Because I don't know, you never know. Things might happen. Things might get crazy this year. But first, we're going to talk about our week, and hopefully everyone had a good New Year's. Did you guys stay up till midnight?
Nope.
No.
We stayed up till maybe 11:30. I think that was as late as we made it.
You beat me. I was up to like 9:30.
Oh man,
I don't even try anymore.
old man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I think
don't even try.
I think what sucks is like I've even got some fireworks I was gonna light off at midnight, and we stayed up late and watched a movie, and we finished at like 11 something, and it was like I don't even care. And the kids are like, "Yeah, we're tired. Let's go to bed." So yeah, we were lights out.
We did stay up to midnight. We never
did.
stay up to midnight, and we watched the second Lord of the Rings, and so that helped. But still, I think it was over by like 10, and then we're like, we're gonna try to stay. I was like, let's just try. So we ended up we stayed up, and right after midnight we went to bed. I turned on the YouTube ball drop, like live video that they have,
Yep.
and then I just turned that on real quick, and then that was it.
What time did you get up? Wait,
Yeah. So usually you can't do both. You can't stay up late to midnight and watch the sunrise. You cannot
not
do
an our
that.
age.
So we did not watch the sunrise. I think I was up at like 8.
Okay, that's not bad.
No, that's pretty good.
Yeah. It was fine. We had pizza and just hung out and stayed up to midnight. It was good.
Were the animals waiting for you this morning? Saying,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
where's my food? Oh, yeah.
They were screaming at me.
Yeah.
But it was good because it's cold. It's cold in the morning, so it got some time for the ice to melt a little bit. So what'd you guys get into this week? Whoever wants to start.
Al, why don't you go first? I feel like I always go first.
This week we've been working on building custom barn doors. So we're building the barn, and then I was trying to figure out how I wanted to build doors. Lumber's expensive right now. Usually I build them out of 2 layers of 3/4 inch pine and then trim them out in pine. This year I was like, man, that's gonna add up quick. We had 4 doors to build, and then we still have the big sliding barn doors to do, but just like 1 man door. And then I was building 2 4-foot wide by 7-foot tall Dutch doors for the animals. So I decided to do it out of 2x6s, and then trim the 2x6s out with pine, so it's the same thickness as if you do it the other way, but it was a lot cheaper. So I've used pocket hole jigs quite a bit for a lot of things. I used to work at a higher end furniture store, and they had it was a pocket hole jig, but it wasn't Craig. It was like a stand, like a desk, and it had a foot pedal. You'd put the piece
Yeah.
of wood in it, and you'd step on it, and it would drill through.
I've seen that. Yep.
So
I've
I was
used one of those.
online 2 weeks ago, and Craig has one that you put on top of a bench. It's plastic, and it has a handle you pull down, and it was like a Black Friday sale. It was like $50 off or more. So I think it ended up being 300, and I was like, that's not a bad price, because if I do this all by hand, I'm gonna have a lot of time into pocket hole jigging the 2x6s. What do we do? We probably did like 8 or 10 pocket holes in each 2x6, and I think on the 4-foot doors there was 9 2x6s. So say 90 holes roughly per door.
That's a bunch of time.
So I picked up that Craig, the pocket hole Craig jig, the benchtop one. That thing is fast. It's just, as quick as you pull your hand down, it's just going. No
Okay.
bogging down, no nothing. So we picked that up. We use our pocket hole jig all the time. So I was excited for that. The doors came out good. We mounted them up. Um, so the first door we did, it was the man door. Me and Gina were trying to figure out, okay, which way do we want it hinged? So when we're, when you go, which way are you going to come to the barn more often? Which way are you going to want to pull it? So we're like, yep, this is the way we're going to do it. So we hung it. That was the first door. Went on to the second, third, and fourth door, hung them. Those were the Dutch doors. They took more time. The next morning, I was editing the video before we went. So our videos, we have 2 days in each video. So I was editing the day before's video, starting to edit it. And I went, are you kidding me? So we hung the door up, hinged opposite as what we just talked about. I just took the door. I had it on the forks of my tractor, and I just picked it up and went, doop, didn't pay attention to which way I was doing it. Both of us, we just did it and then went on to the other doors. The other doors we did right, but the first door we didn't. So I was glad I had it recorded, and I edited it that morning because I went outside and I said to Gina, I said, do you know what we did wrong? She's like, no, what? I said, oh, we did something wrong. She's like, no, they're all open in the right way. We hinged them correctly. And I'm like, are you sure about that?
It's funny. You caught that in the edit.
I caught that in the edit. So that morning we went out and we unscrewed it, took the hinges off, flipped it around, and hung it on the other side.
Oh, man. Did you show that in the video?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that video goes out tomorrow morning, which will have already been out. So,
yeah,
that was last week we were doing that. But I just really? We just got done talking about how we were going to hang it. And then we were talking about something else. And so it was laying on the forks, and I just flipped it up, didn't even pay attention, put it on, and then screwed it on the door jamb and went to the next door. So we've been dealing with a lot of rain, warm and rain, and muddy. I mean, some spots the mud's probably just walking. The mud's probably 3 to 6 inches deep, and then our driveway's starting to get rutted up. And I'm like, this is what North Carolina winters are probably like all winter long.
Yep.
Do you guys deal with mud all winter?
Yeah.
For the most part, there's a little bit of it freezes solid in January you might get 2 weeks of frozen mud, but generally, yeah, it's mud season.
So I've been going, man, I can't wait till it freezes back up. Because I'm like, at least with the cold, it's frozen mud. So it started freezing up last night. So today it was cold. It was 26 for a high today, but it's frozen ground and not muddy ground. So I guess there's different ways to look at the cold weather.
Yeah, I'll take frozen mud over muddy mud any day.
Yeah, for the last week we had muddy mud, and it was like, oh, this is no fun. You can't, you don't want to drive anywhere off the trails or even go on trails. Your driveway just gets all rutted up, and usually we have a mud season for, I'd say, 2 weeks to 4 weeks is usually mud season in spring. But in springtime, it's going to dry up. Where this time of the year, it's like, this isn't drying up. We need it to freeze up.
All right, so this week, I've been feeling a sore throat coming on.
Uh-oh.
I feel pretty good today, but I feel like I'm still kind of fighting it. And then I think Lorraine started feeling sick today too, or just tonight. So I don't know. I haven't got sick in a while, so I'm overdue. But yeah, let's see. This week, man, I put out that year-end video. I told you it took me maybe a month off and on of editing it. I think that fried my brain. I put that out there and I posted it, and after that I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like, I don't know, I just felt wiped out. I really did feel like it fried my brain. I was like, I had to walk away from the computer for all day. I was just like, okay, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go chop some wood or something. So yeah, after that, I put that out on Friday, that video. And then, so yeah, pretty much all weekend, I tried not to do anything. I worked on the high tunnel a little bit. Hopefully I could get back to that tomorrow and start working on it. I did notice though, we checked on our bees. In one of the boxes, the bees were all dead. we got them in the last spring, and they're all been fine all year. Two bee boxes. We just happened to walk by it, and I was like, "There's like dead bees, just a pile of them on the sitting outside." And so we checked it. Sure enough, they're all dead. And there was a wasp inside there, so we were thinking maybe the wasp killed them all. Because I think the wasp will like rob all the honey. They'll come in there and rob it all. But the other box that we had, they were all in there. All the bees were in there still. So that one seemed fine. They seemed more stronger. So I don't know. It's kind of sad when you see all those bees dead, because they're just a different animal, you know? They're like another animal. It's almost like if 25 meat chickens died all of a sudden.
Right.
You know, it's kind of the same thing. And you don't know why. I mean, you assume maybe it's a wasp or something, or maybe it was a cold. I don't know, but I felt like it wasn't that cold. So that was kind of sad. Oh, we put in our first big feed order this year.
Ouch.
I know. 1,000 pounds of pig feed and 1,000 pounds of egg layer feed.
Yeah. Ouch. Double ouch.
So should be getting that by the end of the week. We were just planning our year with meat birds. I go back and forth of like really getting into selling chicken, like whole chicken. Like I think I go back and forth in my mind ever since we've been doing this whole lifestyle. I don't know why. Part of me wants to do it and part of me doesn't.
I feel that.
And I'm trying to find ways to do it, but not, I guess, like I don't want to go to a farmer's market every weekend and sell. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's not where it's at. Like it's almost like I'd rather have people come to me and buy it. So I'm trying to figure that out. I always do every year. And right about this time is where you get excited about the coming year and you're like, oh man, let's do it. You know, let's get all these chickens. And it's hard not to do that because it can end up biting you in the butt later. Because you're like, why did we order all these chickens? You know?
I wonder if you could do like a pre-order, like pre-sell them.
Yeah, I thought about selling them like kind of in bulk. Like you buy like a half a cow, but instead you're buying 30 chickens at a time.
Right. And you
or something
pre-order
like that.
this time of the year and you pay half up or something.
Yeah, that's what
Maybe
I was
put
thinking
some-
about doing.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure that out, how many that is, how many do we need for the year, and then how many do we want to sell or try to sell, plus the workshops that we do, all that, and then how much is feed going to be. So yeah, we're kind of in that stage of once a year we try to figure that out. It's just
What
planning
birds you
right
doing?
now. I think we're going to do Cornish crosses. I mean, if we're going to try selling them, we got to do the Cornish cross.
Right.
Because they're just quicker. We might end up just alternating Cornish crosses and the red McMurray's red broilers, which we like. I like them better, but you just can't beat the turnaround time for the Cornish cross.
Yeah, 8 weeks is hard to beat.
I know. They're a lot less money, a lot less to feed. Plus, we still want to do turkeys again, so stuff like that. And I think this time I'm probably going to have to make another brooder. I feel like I'm making a brooder every year. But I think I might have to make one more. I think we're good on chicken tractors, which is great. Like, I feel like every year I have to make a meat chicken tractor. But I think this year we have, we have 4 of them. Like the big Siskovich style ones. So we should be good there, because I don't think I'm going to raise any more than that at one time.
How many birds does that style chicken tractor hold?
No more than I would not do no more than 30.
No more than 30.
25 is good. 30 is probably max. I try to do 40, and 40 is just too crowded. Yeah, at first it's okay, but then as I get older, they just can't move in there. So yeah, that's coming up pretty quick, man. I'm thinking we're going to end up getting our meat birds probably the end of probably the beginning of March or the end of February.
Really?
Yep.
We don't get ours till May, and that's like early for us.
Wow.
I think the last frost date is in April 20th or something
It's like the 15th, something
for
like
us.
that.
Yeah. So right around there, we either put them on grass at that time, or they're gonna put on the grass like a week before that.
I feel like I'm pushing at the beginning of May for our area. We keep them in for at least 2 weeks, and sometimes at that point the ground's still cold, damp, and just muddy, and it's like I hate putting them. You don't want to put them out because you just end up losing a ton. When it's
Yeah.
like, hey, you guys, February and March, it's like, wow, that's a big difference.
No, it is. Some years you're like, man, we should have got meat chickens in February or the end of January. Some years, because you're like, man, it's so warm out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're probably sold out by then if you want to add an order in at the last minute.
Yeah, or you might get that freak cold spell still. Like there's still like a chance of you never know. What if that does happen? It's like getting excited of planting like vegetables. You're like, oh man, it's getting warm. It's like January. You're like, let's start some food, and then next thing you know, boom, it's like 10 degrees out. So how about you, Ben? What you been up to?
So usually the week after Christmas to New Year's, we don't really do a whole lot. We just try to take it easy. My birthday's in the middle of that week, so did some cake, did some fun stuff on my birthday, and then one of our family traditions is right around New Year's we like to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I guess that makes us nerds, but all my boys are really into stuff like that. I loved those movies when I was growing up. There was a period of like 3 years where one of those movies came out every Christmas, and so that was what me and my cousins and my brothers would go do, just go see the Lord of the Rings movie in theaters. And so it kind of brings back nostalgia watching these movies every year at New Year's. So we watch one every night, and then the last one we finish up on New Year's Eve. 11:30 was about as late as I made it on New Year's Eve last night. And it was just like, I'm so ready for bed. I hit the pillow and was out. One of the fun things that we got to do, that this is totally homestead related. On New Year's Eve, we have a massive snack dinner for dinner. We do a great big charcuterie board. All of the things that we like to snack on, we just really do it up. So we like to cover our entire kitchen island in our charcuterie stuff. Usually we try to fill it with stuff that we've made. Meg will usually make some various dips and cheeses and stuff like that. There's always a couple wheels of brie on the table. Well, this year we got to cut into our prosciuttos finally.
Nice.
Man. So just right off the bat, the guinea hog prosciuttos that have been in our kitchen for 2 years now, they are very, very dry. They're not too dry though. So we probably could have eaten them last year because they haven't lost any weight in a year. And so they kind of stalled out at some point and quit losing weight. Well, you really want to get down to like 30% weight loss, because that means they're dry enough that they're safe to eat. I mean, you can still eat them if they're not dried out enough. You just have to cook them because technically they are raw. Well, these things stalled out, and it was like, I don't care. We're at the 2-year mark. Let's cut into them. And so basically what happened is these guinea hog hams are so fat that the fat actually stopped the prosciuttos from losing weight. So we weighed them right before we started, and they hadn't changed in a year. And it's like, okay, well, maybe they're as dry as they're going to get. So, you got to carve into them and get past that super hard outer crust. And just right below that crust, it is like, you can cut it. it's hard. It's kind of like jerky, but you can cut it with a real sharp knife. So honestly, I think we ate about half of one of those prosciuttos last night. I mean, we
Nice.
carved off that thing. We had copas. It was kind of cool. Like at one point, it dawned on me. I was looking at the table. Every bit of meat that was on that table were animals that were raised here. Like all of the pork was raised here, processed here. The beef, I cooked up some steaks last night just to add that to the table, just because I can't cut up this cow that I've been cutting up and not try a steak. So yeah, all of the meat on our table last night was from our land, and it was a really cool feeling. Other than that, the next thing I've been doing is Saturday, day before yesterday, I started cutting up our beef. So we processed our steer. I think we talked about it on the last podcast. And we've been letting it age in Jason's cool trailer. We borrowed it. Jason, by the way, like, I cannot express thank you so much for letting us borrow this trailer. This thing is a game changer. Like, it has been so warm. Like over Christmas, it was like, man, if we were hanging this steer out in the barn, there'd be bugs on it by now. Like, it'd be spoiled by now. Like it's been up in the 60s for the past week. So yeah. So yeah, I've been cutting up this steer. I've been doing a quarter a day. I didn't cut today because I didn't feel like it. I was tired after staying up late 3 nights in a row. But we cut both the front quarters. We did one on Saturday, one on Sunday. And so all I have left is just the back 2 quarters, and then that steer's done. But man, it is cool. It's really cool being able to harvest your own beef and get any cuts you want. I mean, it's really cool. I've really enjoyed this. We will definitely be doing our own steer again. So, yeah, we're pretty stoked.
That's good to know about the prosciutto, because we still have not eaten ours yet. So, but we're talking about doing that this week.
So you're at 2-year mark.
Yeah, we're 2 years. It was 2 years in November.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's
I think
probably
it's
ready.
Way overdue. Yeah, it's pretty shriveled up.
Yep.
Should be fun.
Man, I was surprised by the flavor. Like, I thought those copas tasted good until I took a bite of prosciutto, and I was like, oh yeah, these are not the same. Prosciutto just has such a complex flavor. You can actually taste the acorns that we fed these pigs. Like, there is a nutty hint to the meat. Like, it's hard to describe, but it just has a nutty flavor. Like, it's delicious. It is amazing. Kind of makes me wish I've been making a few more prosciuttos. We only did one last year, and so far we've only done one this year. So we'll probably this next pig class we're doing in about 2 weeks, I'll probably be doing one more prosciutto. Just now that I've eaten it, it's like, man, I know in 2 years I'm gonna love prosciutto even more. So I better start adding a few more to the pantry.
I know.
Did you feed your pigs acorns this year?
Oh yeah. Every year, I pay the kids to pick up acorns. Really, the youngest two are the only ones who do it. But I'll pay them by the pound for acorns. And like, I think the first year they picked up like a couple 100 pounds of acorns, which is a lot of acorns. Like they brought me like 3 or 4 or 5 gallon buckets, and they're like, "Hey, Dad, can we get paid on these acorns?" And it was like, oh dear goodness. So yeah, they figured out where the good trees are that drop the really big acorns, and they drop a lot of them. And so it's like easy pickings. You can fill up a 5-gallon bucket quick. Well, this year, Corbin used his own money and bought one of those acorn pickers. Have you ever seen one of those? It's like a rolling basket. Yeah,
Yep.
No, that kid single-handedly picked up every acorn on the property. He'll go out and 5 minutes later come in with a full 5-gallon bucket of acorns. So, yeah, needless to say, I've been feeding the pigs a lot of acorns. I mean, it's great food. They love it.
I knew a guy that made acorn flour, and he'd make acorn cookies. Like this was like his business. Like he would go around in like town, like in like Asheville area, and people would have acorns on their driveway, and he'd just be like, "Hey, can I just come and get your acorns?" And he'd go and pick up acorns and then turn it into flour, and make cookies out of them and sell the cookies. He'd sell the flour. He taught classes and stuff. So it's kind of interesting. I had one before, and it was good. It tasted like a acorn cookie, I guess.
Yeah, that's making the problem the solution right there.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting how they were doing it.
Picking up everybody else's, as what they would say is trash or something that's a pain in their butt.
Yeah.
Making something out of it for sure.
Yeah, they probably pay him to pick it up.
He probably could charge him, and they would, thankfully, I'm sure pay him to do it. Oh yeah, you want to get rid of these acorns? Here you go.
Yeah.
Right. I'd rather have prosciutto than an acorn cookie myself.
I know. Yeah.
Now, are you grinding up the meat to burger right now? Are you saving it all and you're gonna do like one big grind at the end?
I'm just gonna do one big grind at the end. Right now, I've probably got 50, 60 pounds of just trim is what it's called.
Yep.
Done a lot of roasts. Done a lot of everything really. The front quarters, that's your chuck. So there's a lot of grind that comes out of the chuck, but there's a lot of pot roasts that come out of the chuck too. So it's been kind of interesting. It's the same as cutting up a pig, but a little bit different because everything's so much bigger and like there's so much more of everything. It's really, really the thing that I found breaking down a cow is you just follow a seam between muscles and you isolate out individual muscle groups, and those are cuts. So it's been really fun. This cow is so fat. I think I have over an entire lug of just fat that I've taken off this carcass. Like honestly, he's rivaling the guinea hogs for fatness.
Now, is the meat marbled with the fat, or is it basically just all on the outside?
The meat is pretty marbled. I'll have to send you some pictures of some of these, like the ribeyes, very marbled.
Yep.
Compared to, some just regular grain-fed cows, his fat's very yellow and his meat is nearly purple.
Yep.
Like he's very dark. So, yeah, and then, eating it, we had steaks for breakfast this morning. We had steaks with dinner last night. Yeah. They're magnificent. Like just a quick sear on a hot burner, nothing but salt and pepper, just so you can taste it. I cooked them last night, like extremely rare, like almost mooing, and just because I needed to taste it. It's like, what does this meat taste like? So I cooked it as rare as possible. And nobody minded. Like none of the kids minded. Meg didn't mind. Usually they're kind of like, it's a little pink. And they're like, this looks raw still. Oh, it's so soft and tasty. And it was like, yeah, it smells. The smell makes your mouth water.
So when are the new stairs coming?
That remains to be seen.
I'm sure you're thinking about it now.
We're very much thinking about it. I think we're really just going to take the year off on a cow. Maybe in the fall or something like that. Maybe, the way it works for us is usually stuff falls in our lap. Either friends are in a hard place or, whatever. It's just one of those timing things. When the timing is right, it'll happen again. But right now we're not actively looking to get another cow on this property. Although even kind of concerning the topic tonight, it's one of those things I kind of feel like maybe we should just keep one, just get another one, keep it around.
Let's talk about this topic. Preparing for the coming year. So what does that mean? What does that look like?
I don't know. I think this is going to be an interesting year. So 2020 was an election year. It was pretty interesting. this year, 2024, as we know it, is going to be another election year. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what we're in for, I guess. I don't know. I've just been kind of thinking about things and how do we want to prepare and what do we want to have on the homestead and just kind of being aware of everything that's going on.
Does that mean putting away more food and growing more food?
I don't know if it means putting away more food, but it means definitely making sure you're doing what you normally do. And then I guess I know we're thinking cows. Do we want to have do we want to get, I don't want to say a huge herd, but do we want to start getting more into cows and livestock and just having more things?
Yeah. Or animals that I don't have to buy 1,000 pounds of feed to feed
Right.
them.
Yes.
Yep. More
They could just eat grass.
Yep.
Those animals.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, how long will that 1,000 pounds last your coonies? Is that for your coonies? Or are you planning on getting feeder pigs?
No, I'm not planning on it, but you never know. But
Yep.
but right now it's for the coonies. So I bought 1,000 pounds last, I think it was in May. This last year in May.
Okay.
And I finished off that 1,000 pounds in November.
Okay.
And that was just feeding the coonies. What is that? 8 months?
That's
that
really
1,000
good.
pounds lasted me.
Yep.
But of course, the coonies were a lot smaller. You know what I mean? Like the piglets that we had, they weren't as big, and we only had 2 feeder pigs. So, I mean, 2 of the breeders were eating that. So I feel like lately, this last month, they've been plowing through some feed, even though I'm not feeding them any more than usual. But now that I separated the coonies, the 4 piglets, I separated them. I feel like, they are eating more than before. So that'll be interesting to see how long this 1,000 pounds lasts me. I'm thinking it might last 5 months.
Yep.
Maybe 4 or 5 months, maybe.
Because what do you have? 4 piglets and then the 2 breeders?
Yep. And then they might have piglets in March.
Oh, that's right. You did. Are they still together? The 2 breeders? Yep.
Yep.
How often's their cycle? Like if she didn't get bred, when should she be?
It's towards the end of the month. I think it's like the 20th or 21st of the month. She gets in heat.
Yep.
Right around there. And sure enough, you can hear him. Zeke's trying, and sometimes they're fighting it. You can hear it from our house window. Like, oh, I think Zeke's trying because she's not. She's in a bad mood.
So you're still not sure then if it happened already or?
I don't know. I mean, how do you know? Like we saw him, but I don't know. Might not know for another couple months.
You'll have piglets before you know it. Was it 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's like March 24th is what we calculated.
Yep.
That was pretty much like last time. It was right around that time too. So
You'll be getting your meat birds and you'll be having piglets born.
oh yeah.
So I guess would this be a good year to start growing your own food? If you're thinking about getting into homestead, would you? I guess one thing during 2020, I guess one thing that I found very reassuring was homesteading. Whether to know we were growing our own food, but also we just got to live our life doing what we want to do or doing how we live. And we could just, I don't want to say hunker down, but we're homebodies anyways because we homestead. So with all the stuff going on in the world, we were still able to do what we want to do. You shut the news off and life was, it wasn't exactly the same, but life was still pretty much the same as long as you wanted it to be. If you could just, I don't want to say stick your head in the ground, but if you wanted to, you could just ignore all the chaos that was going on. You had your animals, you had your garden to tend to, you knew you had food to put away. And I found that reassuring, definitely, and more grounding, I guess, would probably be the best way to put it. I don't know if you guys felt the same way during.
I mean, that's exactly, you took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly what it was in 2020. It was so reassuring watching everything that was going on in the world. And, we had just landed here. We were building this place. but we already had our animals. We already had food in the garden. Like, food was rolling in, chickens were laying, we had meat birds, like all of that. And I remember watching everything going down. It was like, I think we're going to be fine. Like, if this is the place to make a last stand, I think we'll be fine. We've got more than enough room to grow enough food for all of us. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it did reassure us that we're on the right track here. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing this.
I don't know. I guess for me, I found like even if you were getting anxious with everything going on, it's like just go out in the yard, like go tend to the animals, go tend to the garden. Like they never change. Like they're still there. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what the news just said. Like,
Yep.
like kind of thing. But
They still need to be fed and watered.
Yep. I will say
like they don't care it's your birthday. They don't care it's Christmas.
they don't care. They don't care it's an election year. They don't care what's going on. So you guys gonna raise any more meat birds or anything this year? You raising what you did last year?
Yeah. So I think for us, I think we calculated. Well, so it's us and then Lorraine's parents that we give them a bunch of meat too.
Yep.
So like as for chicken, I think we calculated at least 100 for us and them that we need.
Yep.
And then, for doing workshops, you're probably talking another 40 chickens for the workshop attendees. So, it's 140, 150. Plus, if you want to sell any, I don't know. I think I'm leaning towards 275 chickens for the whole year.
Ooh, that's
now,
a
do you try to
bunch.
figure in any? Yeah. Do you try to figure any like percentage for loss?
Yeah.
That's always the hard
No.
one for me when I'm trying to figure that.
Yeah.
Like, what's the overage? Because unfortunately, there's always going to be some kind of loss.
Yeah, I look at it. I guess I don't really do a percentage. I just look at it like if I want to sell 25, I'll get 30, and maybe I might lose 5. I might lose 3.
Right.
Around like 3 to 5. 5 is a lot, but I would say maybe I might lose 3 per 30 chickens. Or it might not lose any, and it depends on the hatchery too. The hatchery might send me like 2 more extra, like they
Right.
might send me 32, and then I might only lose 2, so that means I'll end up with 30, or I might not lose any. So yeah, it's kind of hard to predict, but that's why I order a little bit extra each time.
How do you guys figure that, Ben?
Throw a dart. No, we kind of base it off of like how many chickens did we eat last year, because we've also talked about selling chickens, and kind of the way we've set it up, we've gone in with friends. I don't know, back to 2020. 2020 scared a lot of people. It woke a lot of people up, and so there were friends that came to us in 2020 and were like, hey, if you raise any more chickens, can you get some extra? We'll, split the feed or whatever. And so we ended up doing that. I think we did it twice. I think it was like 21 we did it spring, and then 20, yeah, and the fall batch. We did that with a couple families. I think I just lost my train of thought. Come back, train of thought. It's all this staying
How
up
many
late.
chickens?
Yeah, that's what it was. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jason. Yeah, it's so, for us, it's like, okay, 50 chickens wasn't enough. 75 chickens wasn't enough. 100 chickens, that seems to be about perfect for us. So that's kind of where we're at, is we've found that 100 chickens a year, we can make that work. Assuming that we also have pork and beef and, maybe a deer or two.
Yeah.
It's just what we found since we've been here. Like me and Meg have had this conversation ad nauseum. right now we're cooking and having to raise the most food we will ever have to raise. We have almost four teenage boys in the house. These kids eat tons. Like, oh my gosh, these kids can put away the food. But I remember when my parents were, having these same conversations. They're like, you guys don't realize how much food you eat. And it's like, well, I'm hungry. But yeah, it's just a weird thought that it's like in a few very short years, these kids are going to be to the point where they can get married and move out and, start their lives. And we're not going to have to grow this much food or cook this much food. And, it
Or
changes.
will you? Or will
yeah.
it?
Or will we? It could be.
They'll be putting their orders in.
I know.
Yeah, that's a very real possibility. Well, if they're wanting to come to mom and dad's and get some meat, then they're going to be over here hauling water to some chickens. I can tell you that much. Be like, yeah, you're welcome to any meat in the freezer, but be here by 7.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to be here on butchering day too.
Yeah, that's really it. I don't mind raising the birds because meat birds are a lot of work. I kind of streamlined the system this past year. I made it very easy, very convenient. But butcher day, that's when it's all hands on deck. You're trying to do 100 chickens in one day. That is a long day, no matter who you are and what kind of equipment you've got. You better have a lot of hands.
Will you do that again this year, Ben? Will you do thinking all one batch or?
No, I think we're going to split it up. I think we're going to do a spring batch and a fall. Well, I don't know. We go back and forth. I don't think we've decided yet. Probably just a fall batch. I don't know. See, it's just stuff as we're not quite like solid on our year plans. I know there's a lot of people doing that right now, writing out all their 2024 plans, but yeah, we're not quite there yet.
We do 2 batches in the spring, but we break them up 2 weeks apart. So we usually do 70 and 70 is what we've done the last few years. And then that way, if we have any small ones, we can hold them over for the second batch and let them grow up and get big enough. And then we'll do the last batch. It's a lot because it's like back to back 2 weeks in a row. You get one weekend off and the next weekend you're doing it again. But then it's like, oh, I'm done. Like I don't gotta butcher the chickens anymore. I don't have to feed them anymore. So it's like kind of like a big push for butcher day. But then after that, it's like, oh, that's kind of nice. I get the rest of the summer kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then fall we can concentrate on pigs and sheep and whatever else we have.
Yeah, we'll probably spread it out for 4 butcher days throughout like spring and summer.
Yep.
And 25 to 30 chickens per butcher day. I feel like butchering 30 chickens in one day is very doable.
Yeah,
it's kind of
that's
like
very doable.
Any more than that,
Yep.
if you're going to 50 or 100, that's a long day.
The only reason why I like to do a good amount at once is because I don't want to say the worst part, but one of the most time-consuming parts is cleanup. So whether you do 30 birds or you do 70 birds, the cleanup's pretty much the same.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's like the worst part 'cause it's like you're done. You've had a long day, and it's like, oh wait, I gotta pick up everything. I gotta wash all the equipment down and clean everything up, and yeah,
Yep. It's work either way.
it is. How many classes will you do this year? Yeah,
I'm thinking at least 4.
At least 4. I don't know if you'd have smaller amounts and do for the classes or not, and do more classes or.
Yeah, we don't do. If we do 4, we do like maybe 20 chickens per class.
Okay.
Depending on how many people are at the class. If we have, I figure it's like 2 chickens per person.
Gotcha.
Like I don't make them do 100 chickens.
You want them to still want to get into homesteading and raising meat birds done with the class.
We were doing like 40 chickens, and people were doing like 5 chickens a piece, and like after like 2 chickens, you just see this glossy look in their eyes, like, "Are we gonna do all these chickens?"
Right.
I'm like, "Oh yeah, Oh, yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
So I was like, oh, maybe we should lower that number. I get it. I understand. They're here on vacation.
Yep.
Vacation to
Do
work.
any of them stick around for cleanup?
Oh yeah, people are super nice, man. Like people are like, hey, you want us to, what do you need? You need help cleaning up, Usually I'm like, oh no, we got it, Like I'm not expecting anybody to clean up, but if they want to, I'm like, yeah, sure, Like sometimes like I got to take more chicks out in the field, and they want to come with me. Hey, can I come with you to like bring the chicks out? I was like, sure, which is cool. People are super nice that come. They're very helpful. So what about veggies? I'm thinking we're gonna grow a lot more veggies with this high tunnel that I have.
Right.
That's something we need to work on more. Anyways, we don't grow enough of those veggies. That's an area that we need improvement.
Have you guys been planning that or trying to plan that with the new high tunnel and figure out what you're going to be doing and what you want to grow and how much?
No, not really.
Not really.
We haven't got that far yet in our planning.
No.
We should be doing that now, but yeah, I don't know. I've been going back and forth of probably not in the high tunnel, but I want to grow like maybe like turmeric or like something like that. So we could like grow a whole lot of and then like see if we could just sell it.
Can you guys grow ginger in your area? Because that's kind of the same, I think, right? Grows pretty much the same as turmeric.
Yeah, we grew.
Oh yeah.
We grew both ginger and turmeric in our high tunnel, so it's completely doable.
Yeah.
Does it just stop taking over, like spreading and reproducing?
They didn't on us, but then again,
Yeah.
I dug them all up. I left one in the ground to see if it would spread, because everybody's like, "Oh man, you got to dig it up; it's going to spread." But they said that about horseradish too, and I planted, I don't know, like 24 horseradish plants, and we eat them. So I keep waiting for them to be invasive, and they're not acting like invasive plants. They just kind of stay right there until I dig them up and eat them. So yeah, so far haven't had them spread.
Or like ginseng, I think is another one. Over here, man, there's some ginseng robbers.
Right.
There's like wild ginseng, like in the mountains. Like when we first moved out here, I thought that was the craziest thing. Like people were like, "Oh yeah, there was some guys on my land," and I met some people that they see like flashlights. It'll be midnight, and they'll see flashlights out like on their land somewhere, and they're like, and there was guys out there like looking for wild ginseng, and like stealing it.
Yep.
I thought that was the wildest thing. I was like, wow, that's so crazy to me. But it's a thing.
I get all excited when we first moved.
You want to hear a funny story? You want to hear a funny story about ginseng? All right, so story time. So when we first got here, and us dumb Californians, I get here and I purchased a weed eater, and I'm working on clearing the property line. Well, there's this section of the woods. It's actually the acre of woods that we bought that's next door to us. But when I was clearing that property line, I'm just chopping down trees, and then I came through there with the weed eater, and I'm weed eating all the underbrush right along the property line. Well, I'm usually pretty good at identifying plants, and there was a few plants that I didn't recognize. It was like, these little leafy plants, and they got a couple berries on them, little red berries, as I'm bushwhacking them with this weed eater, turning them into mulch. Yeah, well then, shortly thereafter, we had people message us and be like, "Hey, do you guys have, wild ginseng, American ginseng on your property?" And it was like, well, I don't know. And so I looked it up, and it was like, oh dear goodness. Yeah, I murdered a bunch of those things just the other day. Turned them all into mulch. So yeah, we have ginseng.
Yeah.
I guess it's growing back. I've seen it. It is coming back up, but it is very, very slow growing stuff. So that would have been like 2019 when I was clearing it, and it's only just now this stuff's coming back. So yeah, maybe identify plants before you go bushwhacking.
When we first moved here, we found some of those plants, and I get all excited. I was just looking up to see what they were, but I can't remember what they were. But it was not ginseng. I can't find what it was, but there's a plant that looks pretty close to ginseng. It's got so much. It's got the leaves, and then it's got the red berries. And I was like, "Oh, look at this! We got some wild ginseng." I was all pumped, and I dug it up, and my father was like, "Oh no, that's this." And I was oh, like there you go, burst in my bubble. Like I was finding the plants all over the place. I was like this is gonna be perfect, but
I mean, eventually I want to get into growing more feed for our pigs and chickens and stuff. I think that's gonna be important. I mean, for us. I mean, now that we should have the space to do a lot of that stuff. I think we need to do that, so we don't have to buy so much feed. Especially, I mean, if we keep these coonies and we continue to grow these coonies, like they don't eat a whole lot of feed, so growing feed for them should be easier.
what do you think would be the best feed to grow for the coonies?
I mean, beets. I mean, something that's shelf stable, something like that. Greens, of course. I guess probably corn. I've never had luck growing corn. Or if I had some kind of plow where I could just grow a huge row of corn and just to try it, I'd probably try that.
What did you grow, Ben, for your pigs in
So
the
since we got into it, it was about the time we read the Dougherty's book, The Independent Farmstead. That book kind of changed our outlook on homesteading. We started growing a lot of the stuff they suggested. You know, you grow your big hitters, grow your squash, your pumpkins, grow the plants that pretty much don't get killed by pests. Like we've been growing those cucuzzis, those serpent gourds. Nothing eats them. The bugs leave them alone, and the plants are extremely prolific. And then the animals love them. The animals eat the gourds as long as they're still green. Squash, like the tromboncinos and cushaws. It's a lot of squash that these things put out. And oh gosh, what else? Sweet potatoes. Man, we can sure grow some sweet potatoes in this dirt. That is a crop that it doesn't matter if we plant 100 slips or 10 slips, we're harvesting tons of sweet potatoes. So just stuff like that. Sweet potatoes, gourds, squash. We did grow corn. The corn is kind of nice because you can harvest it. You know, like this last year we did sweet corn, so we harvested it all for us when it was ripe, and then immediately pulled all of the corn stalks out and fed that to the pigs. And I mean, those pigs, they ate until they were sick because those corn stalks, when they're all nice and green, they're sweet. So yeah, great animal forage. It's just stuff like that. The more you start thinking about, oh, well, in the summertime, I can grow everything for the pigs. I don't have to feed them grain. And so this past summer, I would say, like, I didn't grow enough to replace the grain, but I would say they very much, for most of the summer, half their diet was out of the garden. And that was just strictly because I was too lazy to grow more and get out there and harvest every morning and stuff like that. Like, I probably could have fed all of our pigs out of the garden for probably half the summer. So, I mean, it's really eye-opening when you're looking at the garden, you know, like even the weeds. You can pull the weeds and feed the weeds to the pigs, and they love it. It's kind of interesting when you start viewing your garden and your land differently as, you know, hey, like, we can make this land support our animals. Like, it's just, I guess that's farming. Like, I guess that's really what it comes down to. You know, this is the way our forefathers would have done it. You don't get more animals than you can grow food for. So it's just a interesting concept, especially putting it into practice.
Like, did you find that stuff, like if you wanted to grow it, would it store for you for over winter? Or would you need like a better root cellar or something to keep like in your guys' climate? What do you find?
So, I have out in the shed all of my sweet potatoes, all I think I have 5 great big cushaw squashes, and then a whole bunch of trombochinos. They keep up until the shed freezes. Say a couple weeks. Actually, it was the day that we did the cow. We processed the cow. It got down to 20 degrees, and even with the shed closed, the doors are all closed up. It got cold enough. I noticed one of those squash in there actually kind of started turning mushy. So that means it did freeze, but that's been the only one. And then the sweet potatoes, they don't care. I've got them sitting in a wagon, sitting in the shed, and they're fine. Like I haven't had any of them go bad. And we've got 200 pounds of sweet potatoes in that wagon. So they seem pretty good. We would like to build some sort of cold storage, root cellar or something like that, but that's just not in the cards lately.
Yep. I think that'll be one of our bigger projects this spring or summer is a root cellar to get something done. So that way we have a place to store everything.
We've been using our basement. That's been working pretty good. We have a humidifier down there because we were getting some problems with mold.
Okay, so you have a dehumidifier down there?
Yeah.
It's too humid. Yep. See up here, our house, we had the wood stove in it, so it was 70 or 80 degrees in our basement. So I was like, yeah, that don't work.
Oh.
Can't keep vegetables down there.
Nope, not at all. And it's a dry heat, so it's even worse. So
I mean, that's how that's how this house was heated, was with the wood stove down in the basement.
Yep.
But there wasn't a wood stove in there when we moved here, so.
Gotcha.
I have some friends that, I think I told you guys, I don't know. I went to their place and they didn't do it, but they moved into some land that somebody made a root cellar from a shipping container. They just dug it inside of a hill. Like they pushed it inside of a hill.
Yep.
And then you just open it up and they reinforced the inside. And it was all cool in there, and they have their freezers in there.
Oh, so they ran power in it and everything. Nice.
Yeah. They had I think they had 2 of these shipping containers on the property like that.
Wow. That's a lot of food storage. That'd be nice.
It was pretty wild to see because I had never seen that before. Yeah. You see pictures or something online, but to actually see something like that, right. Somebody actually did it and you see it in person, it's pretty wild.
So we're trying to figure out how we want to do ours this year. We have a bank picked out I want to dig into and do it, but I'm I don't know if we're going to do it out of cinder blocks, if I want to do it out of the styrofoam blocks that they make foundations out of and then fill it with concrete or not.
Like ICF blocks?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be curious. I'll see what you do, and if I like it, I'll copy it.
Right? That's the hard part. What's that?
Or you can figure out what doesn't work and warn me.
Right. And then just try to figure out how big you want to do it. You don't want to go too big, but you don't want to go too small. Then if you want to grow your animal feed and you have a place to put squashes and everything. So it's got to be decent size. And
yeah.
It'd be nice to run. Works. Right. It'd be nice to run power to it so you at least have lights in there. So when you go in there, it's not just a dungeon with a headlamp. It'd be nice to be able to go in, turn your lights on, and have a decent place to go in, check everything out. And I don't know. I've always wanted to build one, so I think this will be the year for it. So what are the easiest plants you've grown for the pigs, Ben? I'll have to try to get some to grow because we want to get breeder stock of the Idaho pasture pigs this year.
Oh, for sure. It'd be those silly cuckoozy squash. Those, they're a gourd. If you can, I've got seeds. I can send you some seeds if you want. But man, those things will take over if you don't watch out. I had one that came up voluntarily. Actually, every single plant that we grew this year was just volunteer, that it just came up because someone had stepped on a squash and popped the seeds all over the ground. Well, come spring, all of those sprouted. And so we just transplanted those. Well, there was one that didn't get transplanted out of the greenhouse. All of the rest of them we grew I would say they were like normal sized plants that you grow throughout the season. You know how big like a pumpkin plant or a squash plant will get.
Yep.
Well, we had one plant in the greenhouse. Its trunk, no joke, was 2 inches thick when I finally pulled that thing out of the greenhouse. Like, I have never seen like a squash plant like that. Just one plant get vines that thick and that big around. It was like it was tapped into the real good soil or something right there in the greenhouse. It was probably because it was protected and it got to spend more time growing. But yeah, that one plant probably produced 400 pounds of food.
Wow.
So, and it was convenient because it was uphill from the pig pens. So I'll just walk out there in the morning, chop off a couple gourds, and play Oprah. You get gourds, and you get gourds, and just throw them all down to the pigs.
All right. So I think that's a good talk for the first podcast of the year. And I hope everyone has an awesome new year. Thank you guys for watching and listening. And we made it over 11,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is pretty cool. And over 50,000 downloads on the podcast on iTunes and Spotify. So downloads is, I think it's listeners. So over 50,000 listeners on just the podcast alone. So thank you guys for listening and watching. And we'll see you guys next week.
Happy New Year's.
See you guys.